uh,
Oh, there we go. Hello.
Hello. Sorry. Um, all right. How should I refer to you?
Huh?
How should I refer to you? Like, what should I call you?
Uh, you can just call me Cyberwitch, she, her.
Oh yeah. Okay. So let me just adjust your audio levels because I don't want you to be like half of my audio levels. I keep messing this up.
Okay.
And you said Cyberwitch with she/her pronouns. Very good. All right. So we've got Witch Core here.
Mm-hmm.
Let's make this.
Um, yeah.
Yeah, this game is inspired by SNES and built-in graphics modes, well known for being Mode 7, which lets you make pseudo 3D effects on the SNES. This game is entirely 2D. All 3D effects are fake, similarly to how games on that console have faked them. That's really cool. So looks like you're a solo dev. Uh, could you walk me through like
Mm-hmm.
your idea process? Like, what?
Oh,
Yeah, like what do you want to come
um,
up with for this?
well, so the theme was announced and it was mode, right?
Yeah,
Um, it's a very, very like broad theme, especially if you like just take it at face value, I guess.
right.
Like
Absolutely.
games are all about like different like modes of playing. So I never the way I like to come up with themes is that I want to like come up with a game. I don't really try to be too clever. I just try to make games that I know I can like make successfully and make like be fun, I guess.
Hmm. Yeah, so you wanted to go for
Yeah.
more straightforward
Yeah.
approach.
Yeah. That's usually how I do it, but I actually had a really hard time coming up with something for the jam because like my very first thought was like mode that's like very broad. What if I just took the word so like mode could be like I don't know like mode 7 on the SNES, and that's actually one of the first things I came up with.
Hmm.
But um I just didn't like go with that for a while until like several days later. I think like I don't know what changed, but I'm like just like committed, and then I like once I'm able to like latch onto an idea and I can like imagine the game in my head and how it would be fun, then I just like go with that. So I went with like the Mode 7 idea.
Hmm.
Um and I think yeah, so the hardest part was like just like getting into it because this is like a very strange kind of game. Like I've never made this sort of game before that's like kind of like this weird like fake like 3D effect where it's like everything has like a depth but nothing is actually like 3D in the way like a Unity game is 3D.
Right, right. One of
Mm.
my friends who developed Ultra Wolf Fighter X, which is uh, another game in the jam that's very SNES inspired, actually spent like a week trying to actually emulate Mode 7 to do the same kind
Mm.
of thing, but he personally found that it was like too difficult, so he just kind of hung it up.
Yeah. I actually like tried to research like watched a bunch of YouTube videos trying to like get the effect I wanted for the background.
Mhm.
Um, and it's just very hard to like internalize and like parse, like, because I have to like figure out what they're doing and what's going on, and like, how would I do that like in Game Maker and with the way Game Maker works, because people are doing it in like Python, which is like so incredibly different. Like,
Huh.
it's not,
Like
it's like,
you researched Python or you researched Mode 7, how people implemented it. You found tutorials
mm,
for it in Python, and then you had to adapt
yeah.
that to Game Maker.
I didn't really end up adapting much actually. I think I ended up like I wanted to get the background done first, but then I ended up kind of ditching it because I was just at a wall because it's like really hard to like wrap your head around it and then implement it. The first thing I did was actually like get the objects like scaling and looking right in like the like first like I think it's like vanishing point. It's like a single point vanishing sort of like fake 3D where everything just kind of like disappears into a single point in the distance.
Right, right, right.
So all the objects like have like uh x and y coordinate, like their actual x and y coordinate like on the screen, and then like their like true xy coordinate within like the rules of the game,
Mhm.
and then like how far away they are from the screen, and that determines like where they actually like show up on screen. This might sound really strange. I think you might understand it better if
Yeah,
you actually just like open the game and saw how it
sure,
works.
sure, sure. I guess what I'm thinking is like, so everything is a single vanishing point. That would kind
Mhm.
of, because like you can obviously see that this has like an emulated horizon. Like the things that are the farthest away don't converge at a single point. So I would imagine that
Oh
you have to
yeah.
like you kind of have to game it a little bit, where it's like, okay, so the vanishing point is probably around here, and so you have to put everything a little bit closer to the screen or something like that.
Yeah,
So is that
yeah.
like,
I think it just ended up like the way like did the water. It's just like I would have to. There's probably like I'm sure there's like always like a more efficient way to do things, but the way I did it is that I didn't end up doing it like a line by line. The way that like all of like the tutorials say is that you like use a shader and you just go line by line and you use like a texture and just go all the way through.
mhm,
What I did was I just used kind of like the same rule for like the water as I do for the actual objects, where each like um point of the square of like the water texture
mhm.
kind of like warps and the same way that like the objects do. Um and then like there's just like a huge grid of all this water texture and it ends up not going all the way up to the horizon, like the vanishing point, just because that would just be a lot more
Yeah, it would probably look unnatural, right?
well, it's just like a performance thing, like
Oh,
yeah.
okay. I guess you've already answered a lot of the other question I would have asked, which is like if you had any challenges, personal or technical. Um,
Oh yeah,
so like, were you
the
working on this
really
really
difficult
super hard?
thing.
Because we only have like a couple weeks, right?
Yeah, I actually, yeah, so like it took me a long time to actually pinpoint what I wanted to do, and then it took a also like several days of just like figuring how to start, and then finally like with like a week left to actually like start the game.
Right, right, right.
um
And then there's the art assets. Like Krasiv says this game
mhm,
looks really nice. Krasiv is the Loot and Goblin developer. We just played their game.
mhm,
Uh,
mhm.
and yeah, the art looks really clean. It has the, I don't know if there's like a name for this movement of pixel art, but the very clean, like no outline uh,
Oh yeah, well,
style of
one of my
pixel art
favorite
games.
one of like my most like influential like games that's like kind of influenced my style, I guess, is probably Cave Story,
Oh
and
yeah,
that's
yeah.
just it's just very like almost like treats pixel art almost like it's like paint.
Hmm.
So there's no outlines or anything like that. It's just like solid color.
Right. Yeah, I've absolutely picked up inspirations from that. I personally take a lot of inspiration from like Hyperlight Drifter. Um,
Oh yeah.
yeah, like pixel art has been going through like really cool movements lately. It's really cool to
Mhm.
see. But speaking of Cave Story, did you? I remember when it first came out. Like literally, it was just a free download, right? And it was just
Mhm.
like super mind blowing. So Cave Story is just like super influential in the indie space, and it's really cool to see how it's like reverberated into, I guess, contemporary pixel artists.
Another thing that was really difficult was the music, and I can go into that, but like I don't want to like talk for like so long, I guess.
Okay.
Because,
If you want to return to the chat at any time, you can do that. But I do appreciate any input that you have. I'm gonna go ahead and open up the game, and then you have any.
Yeah.
If you have any input,
Yeah.
then
Yeah, I can talk more. I just like, oh, so you have like, do you have like a 360 controller or anything like that?
oh yeah, I have the really ubiquitous 8-bit Do controller that a lot of people have now that third-party controllers are not shit anymore. You know, like we don't live in the Mad Catz era. Also, once again, I am the Teleco 20XX developer. I'm just here to like give game developers a chance to like talk about their games, give them a full playthrough, because a lot of game developers that I've talked to have kind of said the same thing. We're just like, you know, I don't even know if people are playing my game all the way through. It's really cool to see somebody actually doing it, and then like, you know, asking them about the development process, because there's not a lot of people out there actually just asking indie developers like what their process is, and I think it's really important because it often feels like as indie developers, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. Like, is this thing that I'm doing hard? Other people that seem to be having an easier time, like how do they do it? And then kind of figuring out like, oh, everybody's having a hard time with this. This is a hard thing to do, right? So yeah, any input that you have is very very valuable.
Okay, and your controller works. Some people haven't been having like issues with controllers. It's something I should have. I think it's like every jam you overlook something, and I think like keyboard support and just like better controller support was one thing, because it's bad if people like can't play your game
Oh yeah,
because they don't
absolutely.
have a controller, or like their controller like just doesn't work. Like
Yeah, like I tested my game entirely with my controller, and then I added keyboard stuff like kind of at the last second, and it ended up like instructing people wrong on how to do a certain input, and a lot of people had trouble with it. But I can't edit the game anymore, so. But without further ado, as suspected, this game looks really good. You did really good at this. So did you want to talk about the music, or?
yeah,
I'm
so
hearing
like,
now it's pretty good so far.
yeah, it's actually probably like one of the like, that was another hard thing, was like the music, because like I wanted to like do something like authentically like Super Nintendo sounding, like kind of with like Super Nintendo fonts, and I use my go-to music, like I use like a music tracker. It's called Milky Tracker, and that usually works because you can just make like dumb chiptune music really easy with it. But it actually doesn't support the like file that like sound fonts are on. So like you have to just use the like the raw like wave files, and those apparently do not always like come out perfect. Like there was this sound font I added. Oh, by the way, you can use the right stick to aim.
Oh, yeah. I sorry. I thought I saw something about right stick inputs. Also, I think it's very funny that when you crash, you crash and burn like a plane. Actually, no. Your broomstick is like, it looks like it's jet powered or something, right?
Yeah, I just like, the wits was just something that I made the main character because it was just more interesting than like just like a fighter plane, I guess.
Right. No, it's really cute. It definitely gives it like a certain appeal. there's something like really evocative about like I guess the breezy sort of look of a witch flying on a broomstick with long flowing hair, shooting down stuff.
How she turned out. The sprite actually, I think, was one of the first things I finished, just because, like, I don't know, like, even though it's like character and like character art is like something that you technically don't need until like way late. Without it, I just like don't really like I just feel like I just understand the game a bit more if I have like a literal character rather than like a square the whole time I'm developing.
Yeah. Typically it does help to just prototype something out without finished graphics, but I think I kind of agree that there's sort of an exploratory aspect to having the character on screen first, because that can also inform the gameplay, right? Like, how would a witch on a broomstick shooting things, like, what would she be fighting? How would she be fighting them? You know, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and just like it helps me get a feel for like how the game is going to be, because like just like having squares, like you don't really get a feel for like what's this gonna look like after everything's actually in and they're no longer squares. You kind of just have to like guess.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I just like I just like to have the character how it's going to be, because yeah, that kind of like informs like everything else.
Yeah. Also, I see you've put a lot of like visual flair and everything. I really appreciated the like the aircraft comes in. By the way, the Krasov says the music kind of reminds them of Space Harrier. I've never experienced Space Harrier, but
I've gotten a lot of Space Harrier comments.
Okay.
That's like the most common thing. I never even like thought of it when I was developing, but like yeah, it's pretty similar, just coincidentally.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know there's like a few games that they made that's like similar to this. Like there's the Star Fox on the Super Nintendo, and there's this game that like I really thought of when I was making this, that like I'm not sure the developer is or what it's like called, but I thought it was like for Super Nintendo or maybe it's for like Sega Genesis or something, that has like very similar gameplay to this, I think, but like I couldn't find what it was called. Yeah.
Well, this feels very like legit. One of the reasons I was curious about this game, my friend Cello, who is part of my home Discord server, developed his own game in secret, and he made Ultra Fighter X, which is the aforementioned game that he spent like a week trying to figure out a Mode 7 like solution on Godot. And it kind of reminded me of the same thing, especially since both of your levels are like, at least Cello's first level was water-based. But like you've both got very strong aesthetics, and I was just like, oh man, like there's more out there like that for this specific gen. Also, man, I'm doing a lot better than I thought I would be at this point. But as far as the visual flair that I was trying to mention, I really love the water splashes that you have on everything. Like when things are going down, when things approach the water, like the waves surfacing. That's a really cool touch. Also, that when the ship is approaching, you've got the box reminding you, like, yeah, watch out, they're gonna be in this space and hit you.
Okay, sorry, I wasn't talking the whole time because it seemed like you were in the zone. Oh yeah, so yeah, it's crazy that like, you know, like when I first like started working on this, like yeah, I just was like water seems like a good like first level, and it seems like a good aesthetic for like mode 7 because it's really simple, and you can have like the clouds and the water, and it looks nice. But I was assuming there would be more than one level because I always like you always like have like huge, not like huge, but like bigger plans, especially because like I'm used to like 48-hour game jams, so I'm like, oh, I have like a whole week to work on this. I could do like a bigger game. That just didn't the amount of work just didn't like work out. Like it's just like a very like it's already like a pretty ambitious like concept, like a 3D shooter in like a 2D game engine, like Game Maker.
Yeah.
So, like,
you absolutely could have emulated this with the 3D engine, and I don't think anybody would have complained, but to do legitimate Mode 7 emulation is insane. I definitely commend you for that.
I think it would have turned out, I think it would just look different if it was actual 3D. Like, I probably could have, like, you probably can make this in, like, an actual 3D engine and make it look like this, but it would probably, you would have to, like, do it, like, almost on purpose.
Yeah.
Like, you'd have to do something similar to what I did, but you'd be able to take, like, a few shortcuts here and there. Whereas I think if you just, like, did it in a 3D engine without really thinking too much about it.
Right. Krasa says in the chat, wait, this is all 2D. Yes, yeah, Cyberwitch here has actually emulated Mode 7. Like, none of these assets are 3D.
They're all... The water is just like a 2D sprite that's like stretched. It's like just like a big pile, like a big like nested for loop that's been like stretched in certain places.
Yeah.
So and then like all the sprites are 2D. Like all you just see like the ships that just like get bigger.
Right, it emulates steps by
yeah, I really thought I really like how the end product looks. Like even though like I had all these like grand plans for there to like be like a boss and like all this other stuff, but like I think like just like what I got done was really cool to work on, and like I really like this moment where like the music like changes. Like there's more guitars, and then suddenly there's like this big ship, and then all these like little ships like start like harassing you.
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of like a big moment, and then like there's like sort of like a breakup of like these like.
Yeah, that's the next thing I was gonna ask. Because since this is like, because this is on the rails. With the guitar coming in, I was just like, oh, well, this would happen at this time every time. So I was gonna ask if that musical sting in that like next intro section was intentional.
Well, it was. I didn't like make the music with that intent. Like I was just like, I have like the first part, which is a bit more like chill and melodic, and then like the second part is like a progression. It's just like all the guitars come in and it becomes more like a rock and more like a kind of like classic like shoot 'em up soundtrack. And then like as I put in the music because I wanted the music in before like I finished like the level design, because I wanted to like see how the level feels with the music and how the game feels with the music. And then like I was like, oh, it just naturally evolved, like, oh, this would be a cool moment to put right when the guitars start, is like that's when like the big ship is introduced.
Yeah, we love having I guess just like attention to details like that. I actually had a similar experience with my game. Like, I didn't really have an idea for what I wanted my mechanics to be, and then I was just listening to the soundtrack, and I was just like, well, I can synchronize it to the music. And that's kind of how I came up with like one of the mechanics for my game. So those little creative layers, I think, are really good for like when you make a short game for a game jam, just to make it like a creative layer pop. So you said that you wanted to have like a boss. Were there any other things that you had to cut because of time constraints?
I wanted like 3 or 4 levels with each of a boss in each, so I wanted like a short game basically, like a full short game, because I'm like, oh, I made these like really like short like 1 level or just really short like arcade games for like a 48-hour jam. Like I want to like make something with multiple levels for like a weeks long jam, but like it turned out this 1 level was like a lot of work. And then there was gonna be like a homing charge shot, kind of like in Star Fox, and that was not that had to be cut. And then there was just like, oh, and then this level was gonna be longer, and there was gonna be one more enemy that, rather than just like tracking you like all the other enemies do, it would just send out like a beam that just like cut the screen in half basically at different angles. It would be like, it kind of look like a submerged like mine with like, so there's like the sphere with like the spikes, and then it would just have like a send out like beams. It's hard to like describe, but like.
So
And then
are you saying that they would like cut the screen into different perspectives, or
like just they'd have like an attack that was just like a line that would just be like from like one edge of the screen to the other, so like it would just be like a different way to like attack that was like a bit more varied than just like trying to shoot exactly where you are.
Right.
Because like,
yeah, I mean, coming up with more creative patterns and everything.
Just like enemy variations, like enemies that force you to move in like different ways is like, I feel like is like really important, especially if you're making like a longer game. And then just like I wanted like a boss. The boss was going to like have like a yo-yo that it like threw at you that like would just kind of be like a cheeky thing to like use mode 7 on, like this giant yo-yo that just like flies towards you across the screen.
Right, it's kind of like those old like blue and red 3D glasses movies, where they would have like an effect come out at you at the screen.
Yeah, just like a big set piece. Like, yeah, I really like I really love just like big set piece, like old retro games like Contra and like I know there's some that I like haven't played, but like the one I can think of right now is like Super Contra, where there's like all these like crazy bosses that just like jump out at you. Yeah. But
yeah, I mean, everything about this is like really cool. So did you get into the game jam because like you were a fan of Donkey and then like you heard of it, or did you just hear about like a big game jam that was kind of?
Yeah, I watched Donkey a lot. I think he's pretty funny. He's not like my favorite YouTuber of all time. But yeah, he's funny, and I just heard that he was doing like he says in one of his videos, oh, I'm gonna do like a game jam and I'm gonna play games and it's gonna be funny, and I'm like, oh, I like game jams, I'll do that.
Yeah.
And he never mentions it again, probably because I guess he wants to stick to like not like every single person in the world to like make a game, because he probably just wants it to be smaller. But like I looked into it and then I found the Discord and I was able to figure out when it started.
Yeah. Cross-save, yes. Cyberwitch here is a solo dev, at least as I understand it, right?
Yeah. It was solo, and then like I know it's not a rule. I just like I made all the music and graphics and stuff for the jam, so it's kind of like similar rules to like the Ludum Dare competition. That's just like what I'm used to, so that's just kind of what I do by default, is just like make everything myself.
Yeah, I think there are rules about like if you do use like asset storage stuff or whatever, you should at least just have the rights to use it at the bare minimum. Yeah, I only ask about the donkey thing because I was talking about it with Cello, for instance. There's a lot of game jam games here that have just like very strong aesthetics, and like maybe you didn't get enough of the game done, but it would just be like sick as fuck if like even if a frame of your game got into like a donkey video that got thousands of eyes on it, bare minimum, right? I feel like this game would absolutely, like, if I were editing together all of the game jam games, I would absolutely have this in like the cold open like compilation montage of all the cool shit that got made for the game jam. Like, the aesthetics are extremely on point. I don't think you need me to harp on that too much, but I think it's just very easily understood just by looking at it, really. But it is also just an extremely competent, like, I don't know what you call this, like on the rail shooter. Yeah, just on the rail shooters, right?
That's kind of what I described it as, because yeah, I think that's what this is.
Yeah. So do you plan on developing this any further?
I might. I know there's like post-jam productions that do like post-jam jams, which is like a longer jam where you just, instead of making a new game, you like work on like another game that you made for a jam. I might do that because like it's just like a good excuse to like make myself be productive, I guess. Like game jams are like, yeah, this is like a good way to like force myself to like create something.
Yeah, absolutely, because I mention this a lot, but when you have a lot of free time but you don't have any direction, it's easy to just not do anything. But when you're forced to have a deadline and you're forced to crunch for it, sometimes your best ideas come out of that. So yeah.
I think the hardest thing I need to like the hardest question I have is like, so how do I like go from like doing like game jam stuff that like I've gotten like, I haven't like straight up like won first place in any game jams, but I feel like I've like gotten better and like gotten pretty proficient. But the question is like, how do you like expand on that? Yeah, and that's like, I think like just like going into like post jam like jams is like a good way to like again give myself direction of like working on something, like iterating on something a bit more than what I'm used to.
Yeah, so do you are you trying to wrap up here? Or
yeah, but you can wrap up with it whatever you want.
Okay.
Like if you have more questions, that's fine.
Sure. I guess just very simply, do you want to do, or like, are you seeking to do game development professionally, or like, because you said you have done a lot of game jams by now, right? Yeah. Like, are you in, or are you attempting to be the games industry?
I mean, yeah, I would like to be like a game developer. It's just like hard to get into, I guess. I don't really have like...
I would say that you are a game developer. It's just, you know, whether or not you're professional.
Like professional game developer.
Yeah.
It's just like hard to like, I don't know, get like the network of like support you need. It's hard to like, I don't know, it's like as hard as even just making like a game jam game is, especially if it's like your first time, it's like another beast entirely to like have a game, market it, like complete it, do all these like things that you don't really think about but are like super important, like being able to save your game is apparently like a nightmare, and then like just constantly being able to work on bugs and just like all this like stuff. So yeah, it's just like still like a process.
Right.
Um
Yeah, I would say like it definitely helps to have a team, like just the people you can rely
mhm,
on and everything. Uh, I'm not a professional game developer yet, but uh, I definitely admire or I definitely sympathize with the I don't think I know what I'm doing. Like it, I don't think I've ever implemented a successful save system ever, even though I'm sure if I really tried I could do it, but like it's gonna be a pain. Like you just kind of feel like that. Uh, but yeah, thank you for your input so much, Cyberwitch. Once again, Cyberwitch, she is the developer of Witchcore here. Definitely check it out. Great contribution for the game jam. If you have anything else that you want to add, go for it. But if not, thank you for letting me play your game. I'll be rating and commenting, and if you so choose, I will, or if you allow me to, I will send you the highlight reel of this, and then you can reference it later, either for bug fixes or like refining your design process, or just to have footage of somebody playing your game. It's one thing to just show somebody a screenshot and say I make games. It's another thing to just be like, yeah, here's somebody playing my game, and I'm trying to give people the opportunity to talk about their development process because nobody else is asking us down here,
mhm. Alright, yeah, thank you. Yeah, this was nice.
Well, yeah.
Thank you for showcasing my game. Alright.
Yeah.
And then I'll probably just stay and stream and comment, but yeah, thank you so much. Alright.
Yeah. Thank you for joining us. And then I died. Yeah, hell yeah, that was sick.
Mm, mm.